Assessing the threat to the United States from al-Qaeda operatives in Iran and Syria is uncharted territory for this subcommittee. Even though exploring this subject is new to the subcommittee, I believe it is our responsibility, and I thank the Chairman for agreeing to hold this hearing. On April 22nd, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police announced the arrest of 2 people in connection with plotting a terrorist attack on a passenger train that travels from Toronto through Niagara Falls into New York City. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the alleged terrorists were receiving assistance from al-Qaeda elements in Iran. The RCMP stated that there was no connection to state sponsorship. If these allegations are true, it would mark the first time al-Qaeda elements in Iran directed a plot at the West. Soon after the news of the arrests of the terrorists broke, Iran's foreign ministry spokesman stated that there was no firm evidence of any Iranian involvement, and such groups as al-Qaeda have no compatibility with Iran in both political and ideological fields. Iran is a Shia majority country. Only about 8 to 10% of the population is Sunni, and al-Qaeda is a Sunni organization. Even though there are political and ideological differences between Iran and al-Qaeda, there is a need to look deeper at their relationships. Several al-Qaeda operatives have made Iran their home. In 2001, when the United States government took out the Taliban government, many of bin Laden's family members and top lieutenants self-exiled to Iran. In the past, Iran kept a very close eye on all al-Qaeda figures in the country. Iranian intelligence services had access to all communications and contacts. However, these restrictions have been loosened, and this should raise questions about whether al-Qaeda operatives in Iran are making trips outside the country to make connections with a broader terror network. As we evaluate al-Qaeda's relationship with Iran, we must be sure not to look at it in a myopic view. We need to evaluate both al-Qaeda and Iran's relationships with the areas of the Middle East, especially areas of conflict. Hezbollah, a terrorist organization supported by Iran and has a growing and active role in the war in Syria. Hezbollah is an ally of President Assad and is aiding government forces in the Syrian civil war. Al-Qaeda operatives, on the other hand, have been traveling to Syria to bring down the Syrian regime. As the violence grows in Syria, it becomes more sectarian, bringing Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda fighting face-to-face with each other. Will the conflict between Iranian-backed Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda elements in Syria have a grave effect on the United States? What will this conflict do to al-Qaeda's relationship with Iran? As the recent Canadian plot brings questions about al-Qaeda's role in both Iran and Syria, there are still questions that should be raised about al-Qaeda's effect in the West. The plot brings the question of whether al-Qaeda operatives in Iran are looking to Canada as their target for terrorist activity and recruitment. Canada's being a target for terrorist activity and recruitment is startling because a successful plot can cause catastrophic loss to the United States. In addition to the potential for innocent people in 2 countries being killed or injured, or people from 2 countries being killed or injured, there's a possibility of grave damage to critical infrastructure and the economy of Western New York and Southern Ontario. The Peace Bridge in Buffalo is the busy northern border crossing for automobiles in the United States. It is a local symbol and architectural icon for the Buffalo-Niagara region. It is one of America's busiest corridors for international travel and trade. Canada is the United States' #1 trading partner. In 2011, over $597 billion of imports and exports were traded with Canada. Over $30 billion in annual commerce travels through the Peace Bridge. This Western New York region is the first point of entry into the United States between Toronto and New York City, where the terrorists were attempting to attack. The security of our border should be a priority, and this means that first responders who are familiar with the border in the area should be fully funded to prepare and prevent an attack. This also means that information that the Federal Government has related to a potential attack should be adequately shared with State and local partners. Having the information is key to preventing an attack from groups from both foreign and domestic. We can expand our knowledge today, and I look forward to hearing today's testimony. I yield back.